Okay, so today we're learning about more proofs, but today's proofs are going to be supplementary. So everything we've done so far has been these things are congruent, right? Or two angles are congruent. Today we're proving that two things add to 180. So in our proofs last time, what angles were we always using? What angles are congruent angles? Okay. Alternate exterior. So our congruent angles were alternate exterior, what else? Alternate interior, corresponding, and vertical. Okay, so those were the only ones we could really use on the last stuff. Now, what angles are supplementary? Okay, linear pair and consecutive. Okay, today for our supplementary proofs, we're always going to want to focus on consecutive. So we're looking for consecutive angles today. So what was the first thing that we wanted to draw when doing our proofs? Okay, my chart with statements and reasons. So go ahead and draw your T-chart. Label statements. And then our reason. How many steps have we had? 4. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to have 4 steps. Okay, so as a reminder of what consecutive is, my consecutive angles are going to be angles on the inside of the parallel lines on the same side of the transversal. So these two are consecutive, as well as these two are consecutive. Okay? In the figure with the double parallel lines or double transversals, the way it's going to look is it's going to be the two angles that are in the corners in each set of corners. So something like this. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, what is the very first thing that we always write in our proof? The given. So we're going to write A is parallel to B and C is parallel to D. And how do we know that? Because it's given. Okay. Now, can I go ahead and fill in step 4? Yes. So I put my prove there. So angle 7 plus angle 14 equals 180. Okay. Now, this is the same as Friday. We still have our lake in the middle, okay? And we cannot cross this lake because it is full of little bitty alligators that are going to eat us if we go through it, okay? Now, on Friday, we were either given 2 angles or 4 angles, and we came in here and we circled them. We're still doing that same thing. So the angles we're looking at are 7 and 14. So I'm going to go ahead and circle 7 and 14. Okay? Now, does 7 have an angle it's consecutive to? Okay, 7 is consecutive to 6. You're right. Is 7 consecutive to anything else? 10. Okay. Is 14 consecutive to something? 15. So there's 3 different options, okay? And it doesn't matter which one we use. So where do y'all want to go?
6.
Okay, 7 and 6. So I'm going to do 7 and 6 is consecutive. Okay, and then I have to go from 6 to 14. So what's the relationship between 6 and 14? Corresponding. Okay, I always like to write down my congruent statement first. So I'm going to write first that 6 is congruent to angle 14 And I know that because if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then corresponding angles are congruent. Then I'm going to label my consecutive, okay? And so instead of putting, we wouldn't put angle 7 as congruent to angle 6. How would we write it if it's consecutive? Angle 6 plus angle 7 equals what? 180, okay? And again, consecutive angles has to do with parallel lines, so we would use the same reason. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then consecutive angles are 180, or supplementary would be a better way of putting that. Okay, so we know that 7 and 6, angle 7 plus angle 6 equals 180. We want to prove angle 7 plus angle 14 equals 180. What angle is 6 also equal to?
14.
Okay, we found that it was equal to 14. So I could take 14 and substitute that back in for 6, right?
Yes.
I can put it right here, and that means that angle 7 plus angle 14 would equal 180. Is that our proof? Yes. So by what did we prove that? Substitution. Okay, someone in the last class asked about transitivity, okay, and whether it could ever be transitivity. Now remember, transitivity transferred over the congruency. One step is showing that something's congruent, the other one's showing that it adds to 180. Are those the same thing? Congruent and adds to 180? No, so that can't be transferred over because they're not even the same thing. So on these, you will never see transitivity because we're talking about two completely different things. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, let's try another one. Make sure something that I saw that a lot of people are doing is just writing 6 is congruent to 14 without putting your angle symbols. That's like saying 6, the number 6 and the number 14 are the same thing. And that's not true. So just make sure that you're always putting those little angle marks as you're doing your proof. Okay? Let's try number 2. So number 2, I'm going to go ahead and draw my chart. I'm going to make it a little bigger this time because I ran out of room. So we're going to have our statements in our reason column. How many steps should we have? 4. You can have more if you don't take the most direct path. So we're going to label 1, 2, 3, and 4 in both columns. Okay, what is the first thing that I want to go ahead and write in here? The given. So we're going to write A is parallel to B and C is parallel to D. And we know that because it's given. And then what do we want to write here under our fourth statement? The prove. So we're going to write angle 10 plus angle 5 equals 180. Okay, now I'm ready to start my proof. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to circle angle 10 and angle 5. 10 and 5. What do I need to make sure I do in the very middle of these transversals or these parallel lines? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and draw my pond so that I make sure that I don't hop over the middle of it. We've got to go around our pond. So who wants to tell me the path that they would take? Emma?
From 10 to 11 because
Okay. So 10 and 11 are consecutive. Perfect. And then what is the relationship between 5 and 11? Alternate anterior. Okay? So, like I said earlier, I like to write my congruent statement first. So I'm going to put that angle 5 is congruent to angle 11 because if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate interior angles are congruent. Then I'm going to write my statement about angle 11 and angle 10. So what was different about the statement with angle 11 and angle 10? Very good. So we have to do angle 10 plus angle 11 equals 180. And again, consecutive has to do with parallel lines. So we would put if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then consecutive angles are supplementary. Okay? Now, we know that angle 10 plus angle 11 equals 180. How would we prove that angle 10 plus angle 5 would equal 180? Okay, substitution, because if 5 is equal to 11, I could put 5 in place of 11 and get angle 10 plus angle 5 equals 180. So that would be by substitution. Okay, any questions so far on this? Do you like these more or less than last ones? Okay, some say more, some say less. All right, let's look at example 4 next. Okay, I want to show you example 4 because it's a little bit different. So let's go ahead and draw our T-chart. We need to label it statement and reason. We're going to have, again, 4 steps. What is our first step going to be? Write your given. So A is parallel to B, and C is parallel to D. And we know that because it's given. Okay, and what can we go ahead and write in our for our fourth reason? The prove. So we're going to write angle 1 plus angle 8 is equal to 180. Okay, so now I'm ready to start my proof. I'm going to go ahead and draw my lake here so I know that I can't go through the center. I'm going to circle my 2 angles, so angle 1 and angle 8. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Is there an angle that is consecutive to 1? Okay, there is not one. 2 is a linear pair, but it's not consecutive. Okay? And remember, we want to work with consecutive versus linear pair. So, can we start with 1 and find a consecutive thing? No. We would want to go to 8. So what is consecutive to 8? 12. Okay? So 8 and 12 are consecutive. And then 12 and 1 have a relationship how? Alternate exterior. So is there multiple ways that we can go around this one? No, there's not. So there will be a few supplementaries where there's the only one way because there's only one consecutive angle. Okay? So again, I'm going to write my equivalent statement first, or my congruency statement. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 12. And that's because if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate exterior angles are congruent. Then when I write my consecutive statement, I want to make sure that those add to 180. So I'm going to put angle 12 plus angle 8 equals 180. And again, consecutive has to do with parallel lines. So if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then consecutive angles are supplementary. Okay, now we know from what we just did that 12 plus 8 is 180. How do I figure out 1 plus 8 is 180?
Substitution.
Okay, so we know 1 and 12 are equal, which means I could easily substitute or replace this 12 with this 1, which would mean angle 1 plus angle 8 also equals 180. And so that would be by substitution.